all the time. I tell you, God ain't good. I be lying. Low key lit, high key lit, low key lit, flex. Whole squad be lit, low key lit, high key lit, low key lit, flex. Whole squad be lit.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Lit Sessions Live with Marielle. I am Marielle, and I am so excited that y'all are here. If you are watching this on Facebook or YouTube, thank you so much for watching. If you are listening to this on the podcast, thank you for tuning in and listening. Tonight, I'm really excited about the conversation. I have always wanted to talk to entrepreneurs, and I named the show Inside My DNA because I just feel like entrepreneurs just have something different in their DNA. And so I always just wanted to kind of dive in and just have a really good conversation to pick their brains a little bit. And so tonight I'm really excited about my guest. And so my first guest is Kiola. She is the founder and CEO of Haber, which is a mobile app that allows users to rate and review residential properties across the country. So I'm really excited as a tech entrepreneur. My next guest is Vivian Kaye. She is the founder of Pinky Curly Yaki, which is a textured hair extensions company, which generates, get this y'all, $1 million in annual revenue. So I'm really looking forward to having that conversation. And last but certainly not least is Kristian Smith. He is the founder of P2 Custom Clothiers, where he develops the professional image of his clientele. I have seen his work and it is amazing. So I look forward to having a conversation with Kristian. So that's 3 different industries that we really get to kind of dive into. And so if y'all are ready, we can get started. Y'all ready? Give me thumbs up. Y'all on mute. Okay, cool. So I want to start. I know it's kind of loaded, so let's kind of start with your background. So like, what were you doing before you had like that aha moment to start your business? And what was that aha moment for you? I think, Kristian, I want to start with you. Just kind of give like a brief background and then kind of talk about when you had that aha moment that launched you into starting your business.
Sure. So my father raised me to be somewhat entrepreneurial. So I've always operated in that vein. Like for instance, when I needed a summer job, my dad said, well, why don't you take your skill in auto detailing and do a mobile auto detailing service? So I was doing entrepreneurship when I was a teenager. I just didn't realize it. But I went to school at Alabama A&M University, and once I finished my bachelor's degree there, I went into the corporate sector, which is something that I thought I would do for the rest of my career. I worked in banking, and then I relocated to Atlanta in 2009, and eventually got back into banking. And the aha moment for me was when I felt compelled to go study theology. I'm also an ordained minister. So in 2012, I felt compelled to study theology. And in order for me to pursue my theological education, logistically, I had to leave my corporate job because they were giving me a full scholarship that required me to be a full-time student, and I couldn't manage both. So it was in that moment I needed to make some money out of necessity. So I've always been into professional image and menswear. I styled my friends and teammates for special occasions when I was younger. I just never thought that I could monetize it. So it was in this point that I recognized that there was a way to monetize this gift. And the way it happened is that I love pocket squares. That's always been my favorite accessory, but I couldn't find the stuff I was looking for in stores. So I would just go to fabric stores and buy swatches of fabric, cut out a piece, put it in my pocket and wear it as a pocket square. And my mom's a tailor. So she said, you know, I noticed you've been putting those scraps of fabric in your pocket. Why don't you let me finish off the edges? You'll have a real pocket square. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. So she made me one and I loved it and said, we got to sell these. And that was the birth of P2 Custom Clothiers, where now we do everything from the neck to the ground. So custom shoes, belts, suits, sports coats, overcoats, tuxedos, you name it, we get it done.
Love it. Kiola, what is your background and what was that aha moment for how you launched your business?
So I actually I am a Brooklyn girl. I've lived in Brooklyn my entire life. I went to Brooklyn College. Like, I'm a New Yorker at heart. My family is originally from Guyana in South America, but I've been here since I was 7 years old. And I was raised to basically go to school and then get a corporate job. So that's pretty much what I did. I went to school for communications, and I ended up leaving there, and I worked at ABC Networks for maybe about 6 years doing broadcast standards, which is kind of like the FCC for the network. And then from there, I still wanted to be in media. I've always been, I always had like a passion for media and for advertising. So I ended up leaving there and working for a cinema advertising company for the past 7 years. And I kind of, just in the general transition of life, I moved a lot because, I started a family at a point, and then that didn't work out. So then I had to like go out on my own, and moving became like a trend in my life. And one of the things that when I, in moving, especially like having a child, and it became really important for me to be in a place that I felt comfortable. And in meeting my neighbors and having that conversation, it's like, well, when we first moved here, we kind of just only got the information that we got from the brokers. We only got, we ask whatever questions, just this one person, and we kind of make a decision about it, invest all this money into moving, and then we get into the place and you're not really satisfied with it. So my aha moment came out of a conversation with one of my neighbors, and it was like, well, why isn't there like a platform, something like Yelp for residential properties? And it literally was like, I don't know, like that should actually be a thing. And I kind of ran with it. So now it's been 3 years that I've been doing it on my own. And I recently left my full-time job as recent as Friday. Today is day one of me being a full-time entrepreneur. So from there, I have a team now. It's me and 5 other people, and I have a co-founder as well. And we literally in the last month we decided to like revamp the app itself, make it more user-friendly. And it's literally like, it's just like something that we knew that was necessary. And for me, it took 3 years for me to decide that I wanted to, have like a co-founder, because I wanted someone to really understand my goal with the project. And so I'm really excited about the strives and the things that we have in place, and there should be a lot going on in a few weeks.
That's awesome. That's incredible, actually. Vivian, what is the background, and what was that aha moment for you, like to launch your business and to get started?
Well, I was actually running another business when I started Kinky Curly Yaki. So I was a wedding decorator, and I needed a protective style that I felt was reflective of my personal style and looked authentic on me. So I wanted something, like I was tired of the whole African in the front and Indian in the back. And at the time, people like kinky hair wasn't really a thing, especially kinky textured hair extensions. So then I searched. So really I was trying to solve my own problems. So I searched and I searched and I searched. And every time I would find, people who were selling the kinky hair, they buried it under Brazilian and Malaysian and, the exotic textures du jour. And I thought to at the time I wasn't thinking of starting another business because I had a successful business and I was good. But then I thought, no one just has a company that's just selling kinky hair. And this is back in 2012. And so then I bought some hair, and then I wore it to a Black girl meetup, and everyone kept asking me what my regimen was and who my hairdresser was. And I'd be like, girl, it's a weave. Right. And she was like, you know what, I would totally buy that. And that's when the light bulb went off. She said, I thought, well, if she would buy it and I would buy it and no one's selling it, let me just see what happens. So in the down season of my wedding business, I launched Kinky Curly Yaki in December of 2012, and it immediately took off.
That's incredible. So I think people see like the success, and I think sometimes people, especially in the age of social media, we're able to, present what's best, and but people don't really see the struggle, and they think everything is, it happens instantaneously. But in your estimation, and Vivian, I'm gonna start with you. What do you think have been some key challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur? Like, what have been some things that you feel have been really difficult and challenging for
Um,
you?
scaling has been it's a real challenge because in order to scale, you need money. Right?
Sure.
And to scale at the same, to scale at, these incredible speeds, it takes infrastructure as well. And what people keep making this mistake that they assume, well, if Amazon can do it, this small business should be able to do it too. No, that's not how it works. Right? They don't realize that small businesses do not have the same infrastructure, the same capital, the same access to capital as Amazon and Walmart and all these big companies do. So that's been a real struggle. And even now, I am the OG of the niche. The niche did not exist before, so it was like a sub niche of a niche. And so now, of course, other companies have seen the success of that, and they've become my competitors. Except they're not Black. So they're these Asian companies that are coming in, basing their companies off of my success and undercutting me. Right. And so it's been tough, especially in this past year, because they've been scaling like crazy. And it's sort of, I'm, not to say that, I feel left behind, but where I excel is that I am my own customer. I am able to speak about my product. I am the brand, right? Whereas they're like, yeah, they hire a bunch of influencers, but they're influencers. There's nothing behind the brand. And really all they're doing is coming and looking at companies like mine and other Black-owned hair companies and just mimicking what we're doing. So, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but, those would be my two current struggles.
Kristian, for you in clothing and in fashion, what would you say have been some key challenges for you? Because I think, a lot of people think, oh, it should be easy to break into. Like, that should be simple. Oh, we could just make them, like, what have been the challenges for you?
Sure. I'll reiterate what Vivian said. Scaling is definitely a challenge. When we started, we were just making accessories and realized very quickly that because of our limited production capacity, if we didn't outsource production, we wouldn't really be able to grow to scale, which is why we took the next steps to diversify our product and service offering. So that's something that every entrepreneur has to deal with. I tell people all the time who ask me about my business that I didn't start with all of the products and services that I have now. I started with a pocket square. And then I took it one step at a time and I added on one piece and I added another piece and another service. And then there were services that I had, 3 years ago that I didn't really utilize, that now I'm realizing the benefit of those services and reincorporating them into my product offering. So that's been a major challenge as far as scaling is concerned. And then for me, just getting the industry knowledge, I had one hell of a learning curve because I couldn't find anybody in the industry to really mentor me. And in custom clothing, you need to get some experience in measuring people and understanding how garments lay and how they're cut and what's good for what particular body frame. I came in with a natural gift of being able to put looks together. Like that's art to me. I do it in my sleep. I can style somebody's wardrobe without even thinking about it. But measuring people is a skill. And I had to go through that learning curve without really having somebody to guide me through it. So there were a couple of times I had to remake somebody's garment because I just missed the mark. And that's just a commitment to customer service as an entrepreneur. People are okay with you messing up as long as you take accountability for it. So that's how I was able to survive those tough times of, oh shoot, this person's sleeves are 2 inches too short, or the jacket is too short, too long, the pants are too tight. So that has been a challenge, and it took me a good 2.5 years to really work out a lot of those kinks while simultaneously making sure my clients were taken care of. So you spend some time not making as much money as you think you would while you're learning the process. So that was a challenge for me, not having a mentor in the industry.
That's good. I'm gonna come back to that later because I thought like I just wrote that down. I was like, oh, that's a good question. Kiola, what have been some challenges for you? I know the tech industry, there are a lot of startups, there are a lot of things going on. So what are some challenges that you've noticed as you've gone through them?
So for me, the couple of the biggest challenges is that being a Black woman in tech, I kind of don't reflect the natural environment for tech. Or usually, it's just we're very the existence of Black women that are in tech is basically like a fraction of the amount of the audience and so it's very difficult to have people even listen to you and take you seriously in the business. And so kind of like you have to like in my experience, I've had to like invest a lot of my own money into. Sorry, I think I messed up there. So investing, like I've been bootstrapping for the last 3 years. Pretty much all of my my savings has gone into the product. We're still about like waiting for our first investment, our seed investment. It's very important for the support of having like your family and friends invest in your product, especially in the beginning, because no one is sitting around waiting just to give you money. So they kind of want to make sure that you have a viable product. Whereas if you're not a Black woman in tech, there's a lot of people that are willing to take a chance on someone that looks more like them. So that has been one of the biggest challenges for me. And especially since I don't have a background in tech, it's also like it's a big challenge for people to not only invest but also trust that you're going to take your product to the next level so that they can get a return on their investment. And like Kristian said, I think the learning curve, like because I'm not tech is not my background, just learning all of the things that it takes to create an app. Learning how to start have all the business things taken care of, buttoned up. Like, before this, I had no idea how to like to create an LLC, to, have a bank account for the business itself, to start the business credit, to get an EIN number, like all of those things that you have to have in place so that people are going to take you seriously. Like the worst thing is to like show up to a meeting and you're like pitching your product and they're like, okay, cool. Well, they start spitting, lingo that you have no idea. And you're like, yeah, I kind of don't know what you're talking about. So that, learning on the fly, just having a great idea that's not going to get you where you need to be, especially in business. Like you have to do the footwork, you have to invest yourself. So, doing that, having a full-time job, being a full-time mom, learning, having an entire business and putting myself in a space that I wasn't originally from. It's intimidating, but it's super rewarding. But that has been my challenge, especially in this journey that I'm going through.
So I think building a business is hard, right? I mean, because like especially even like you're saying, if you have a full-time job and then you're also trying to build something, or if you're doing it full-time, it's a lot to juggle. Mm-hmm. And so my question, Kristian, I'm gonna start with you. Is there a such thing as work-life balance? Like, can you balance it all, or is it that's gonna be your focus primarily? Is because you're building this thing, and a lot of times just you may have a team, but you're leading it. So is there a such thing as work-life balance for your entrepreneur?
There can be. It's about your priorities. If your personal priorities are to make as much money as possible, and that's all you're focused on, then you won't have a work-life balance, because you'll only be thinking about activities that generate revenue. But in order to have a work-life balance, you have to prioritize, okay, how important are my relationships to me? How important is my family time? which means you have to make time for that stuff, which means sometimes you're going to pass up on revenue in order to nurture meaningful relationships. So for me, I live by my calendar. And I mean, everything I do is on my calendar. So, I take consultations and meetings. Also, as a pastor, I meet with people in my church sometimes. Everything goes on my calendar so that if my wife says, hey, I want to get away for a weekend, all right, let me blank out my calendar for that whole weekend. That means I'm not seeing clients that weekend. When it comes to like it's tax season, so I got a lot of stuff to do as far as accounting. That's another thing about an entrepreneur that a lot of people don't realize. You don't just get to style people when you start a clothing business. Like, you got to do taxes. So I had to block out time on my calendar where I couldn't meet with clients because I was working on tax related stuff. So your work-life balance starts with your personal priorities.
Kiola, what do you think? Is there, can you have work-life balance as an entrepreneur? What does that look like?
I think you can. I mean, just professionally, I, like Kristian, I live by my calendar as well. And if that's a relatively new thing. I think I used to do it like in my 20s when I was like hanging out with a bunch of people, and then like when I became a mom, it wasn't that important. Like, it was just like, no, I'm with my child. So there was no keeping up with the calendar. But then once I started the business, it was like, no, I have to actually plot out what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. And I kind of don't have a choice because I have to have time. My daughter is at an age where, her development is just as important as the company. So I have to make sure that I make time for her, and she's very demanding. So yeah, there's Zoe has her own color on the calendar, her activities and things that we're doing. And we have specific days where we do family things. And then I have specific days where, we're meeting and talking about, what the app looks like. And then we have meetings about financials, and everything has a time, and we kind of just rotate that way so that we know what's happening when. And I definitely think, it's a priority thing. Like, we're currently, trying to scale and get more people to use the app. So we have to make sure that those things are structured. We know when we're going to meet. We know when we're going to reach out to schools. We have a timeline for everything. And I also have a timeline for my family.
That's awesome. Vivian, what are your thoughts? Is there work-life balance as an entrepreneur?
Well, yes. like like Kristian and Kiola said, yeah, there's a work-life balance. How much life, it depends on how your life is actually set up, right? So like Kiola, I'm a single mom as well. And basically for the last 6 years, I just focused on my kid and my business, and that was it. And so then there was no room for anything else because I was determined, to create the best life that I could for my son. And for that means everything else had to go by the wayside. And then, I had to focus on my business in order to do that. So, yeah, it's just really a matter of priorities. If you're interested in partying every weekend, then, being an entrepreneur probably isn't for you. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to do the things that you really don't want to do all the time. So, but no, I don't, yeah, I guess you could say there's a work-life balance, but something's got to give. Like, I don't think you can have 3 balls in the air. You can only really juggle the 2 properly and do it well.
No, that's good. I want to take a shift from like the outside perspective look on entrepreneurs. I was talking to someone one time, and they were like, "Oh, I would love to be an entrepreneur so I could just, have complete control of my schedule all the time and not have to do anything, get out of bed when I want to." And I was looking like, I don't think that's how that works.
They don't know what entrepreneur means then.
So I want to talk about that. Like, what do you think are some big misconceptions that people have about entrepreneurs? So people who are even thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, what are some big misconceptions? So Vivian, I'll start with you. Like, what are some misconceptions that people have that you kind of want to address?
People seem to think that they need to get from 0 to 100 in under 20, in 2 weeks. Building a sustainable business takes time. Being an entrepreneur is a marathon and not a sprint, especially when you want to build something sustainable. So people seem like, we're in this whole microwave time where everyone thinks, okay, well, if they just buy a course from so-and-so, my business is going to be up and running and making millions of dollars in no time. That is not how it works. So the biggest misconception that I battle is that people seem to think that I'm literally doing nothing and I have time. Like, it's just, so can I take you out for coffee for no apparent reason, but I just want to pick your brain. No. Time is money. What do you want? How can I help you? Can we do this over the computer? Is this something that I really want to do? Like, is it aligned? How do I benefit? People just seem to think because you're an entrepreneur, you just have time to just be doling out to everybody. So yeah, those are my 3.
Kristian, what do you think are some misconceptions that people have about entrepreneurs that you want to address?
I'll reiterate everything that Vivian just said, because a lot of people think what they see you doing, especially on social media, that what they see you doing on social media means that you're successful. But most of the people in my industry who are really doing well don't have a lot of followers. Social media is just a bridge. It's just about exposure. Social media doesn't mean that you're winning and that you're making money. I can take pictures of myself looking as fly as I want to look and post them on social media every day. That don't mean I made $1. That means I spent money to have the clothes made, and I spent money to get a professional photographer to come take pictures of me. That doesn't mean I got clients. So one of the big misconceptions is that as an entrepreneur, if you're winning on social media, you're winning in life. When in reality, that's not the case. And then this whole idea that what people see on social media is your life. Like, no, I'm just showing glimpses of some of the work that I've done. And then for early entrepreneurs, a lot of the stuff you put out there, you either did for free or did it at a super discount because you're trying to build your portfolio and trying to build your credibility in people's eyes. Because when I started in this business, everybody wanted to see my stuff. Well, if I'm just starting a business, how are you going to see my stuff if I don't have any clients? I got to put some stuff out there so I can show people what it's worth. So this concept that if you start a business, you put some stuff on social media, you're going to win is a huge misconception. And like, if you start a business, then, within like a year or two, you just leave your job because you'll be making as much money. Like, those are exceptions. So often we see people who are exceptions and make them the rule for our lives. No, an exception is an exception. It's somebody who broke all the rules and started winning in 12 to 18 months. But the average small upstart isn't going to make any money for the first 5 years. So like Vivian said, when you get into it, you need to recognize it's a marathon. Now, if you make it to 5 years, congratulations. You beat out most of the people who were doing the same thing that you did. I'll give you an example and then I'll stop. I always get the question from people, hey man, you still making suits? I always get that question because so many people start in my industry and just fizzle out. So when people see me as an independent entrepreneur, personal clothier, a lot of them say, are you still making suits? Because they've encountered so many other people who started and just didn't make it. So I'm like, yeah, I ain't going nowhere. I'll be here when you're ready.
No, that's good. Kiola, what do you think? What are some misconceptions that people have about entrepreneurs?
Ooh, I think the biggest misconception is that we're rich. Oh God, if I had $1 for everybody thinks I got some money to throw their way. Listen, it's so easy for people to think because you have your own business, you started your own business, that you just have some money that you are making and it's rolling on in, and they don't understand the sacrifices that entrepreneurs make to have a business. Like, we are literally taking every dime we have and investing it in ourselves, because at the end of the day, we are our biggest supporters, right? So I think that the fact that people think that we have money, and I think that when people from the outside, people think that you're going to get support like off the bat. Like you start a business and people are just everyone's gonna take care of you. They're like, hey, yeah, and give you everything that you need to have to be successful. And it is not true. Like you are going to have to work for yourself and work hard and diligently and take care of the things that need to be done, because everyone has their own lives, and like people aren't just waiting for you to give them work to do. So you got to do the groundwork. You have to literally lay the foundation for your own business. So thinking that you're gonna start making suits and everybody's gonna buy your suit, like it's not gonna happen. Most people are just gonna be like, somebody else you have a business, so you got this, you don't worry about it. And then you're just sitting there like, I need to sell something and I need you guys to support me. I need you guys to tell other people that I'm doing a business. I need you to download my app. I need you to help me. And I think that's like a huge misconception, that once you start something, people are just going to jump on board. They kind of want to see that you're keeping at it. They want to see like that you are invested before they get invested. So like when I started my app, nobody was like jumping at, downloading it. Like I was like, I have so many friends, like I have people I went to college with, work with, over the years. And in the beginning, I think I had like 10 downloads, and there was nobody doing anything. And they were just like, yeah, go ahead. And that same person, I was like, yeah, go ahead, did not download. So it's like, you kind of just have to like roll with the punches and understand that you have that. And I think the last thing I will say is that as an entrepreneur, they think that when you start being an entrepreneur, that you're going to love it. Like everything is going to be great. You're not going to have any bad days because you're your own boss and you're doing all the things. I can honestly say that most days I'm like, what did I get myself into when it comes down to all of the things, the checklists, the things that I have to take care of. So, I mean, trust me, being like working for somebody else is definitely less stressful than, holding yourself accountable and having your own business.
That is the perfect segue. Because so I don't know if y'all saw this clip. And I can't remember if it was really recent or maybe a couple of years ago. So it was on the Breakfast Club. And I think Dame Dash was on the Breakfast Club. And him and DJ Envy were kind of going back and forth, because Dame Dash was basically challenging him and saying, you cannot call yourself a boss if you're working for somebody else. Like you need to build like your own thing. You can't store up something for your kids. And so DJ Envy was like, what are you talking about? I am building. Everybody's not going to start something. Somebody has to work for somebody. And so they were going back and forth, right? And so my question is this. Is everybody really meant to be an entrepreneur? Like, I think there's this misconception that people have that everybody has what it takes, right? And so that clip, even though it was short, it started this conversation of, should everybody try to pursue entrepreneurship? Kristian, I'm not going to start with you. Is everybody meant to do that? Or no, that's not everybody's thing? And what are some things that are a tell sign that you may be an entrepreneur and that you may not?
So the question that you started with, is everybody meant to be an entrepreneur? And I want to answer with a resounding absolutely not. Everybody is not meant to be an entrepreneur. The system in which we live would not function if everybody was an entrepreneur, because businesses require employees. So, if everybody was an entrepreneur, who would we employ? So everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur. It requires a level of self-motivation that not everyone has. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a knock against people who enjoy the structure of a 9-to-5. Like, because that takes a lot of stress off of you when you get to go into the office and do the work that's placed in front of you and then go home and go on with the rest of your life. That's preferred for a lot of people, and that's okay. And I don't knock anybody who prefers that lifestyle. And we have to stop putting pressure on people to think that in order for you to be successful in life, you have to own your own business. If you're passionate about it and you're strong in that area, by all means, pursue it with everything that you have. But that's not a requirement for everybody to be successful in life. And I think, the perspective that Dame was coming from in that interview is his own perspective. But too often we think our perspective should dictate everyone else's. And that's just not the case. Everyone has their own perspective. They have their own life to live. For some people, it includes entrepreneurship. For some people, they need to stay as far away from entrepreneurship as possible.
That's good. Vivian, what are your thoughts? Should everybody start being an entrepreneur?
Absolutely not. I agree with Kristian. I always say, if you're a terrible employee, you're going to be a terrible entrepreneur. This whole, you're building somebody else's dream and blah, blah, blah. It's horse poop. It's just, not everybody's meant to be everything. Like, there's some people who are they're cut from an entrepreneur cloth. And if that's what they choose to pursue, that's fine. If you want a side hustle, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, if you want to work a 9 to 5, you want to do a side hustle, you want to do it full time, cool. But not everything is meant for everybody. So no, please, no, not everybody needs to become an entrepreneur. You ain't about that life, because once you get in it, you're in it. And then when you give up, then you're gonna be like, oh my God, because it's always been that way. We just made it look sexy on the Instagram. So.
Dr. Kiola, what are your thoughts? Is everybody meant to be an entrepreneur? Does everybody try to go for it?
No, I don't. I honestly don't think everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. I do think everyone has their own interests and skills and things that they are passionate about that they can benefit from, but you don't necessarily need to be an entrepreneur to do things that are of your passion. So yeah, just to start your own business, because it's like knowing the difference between a side hustle and an actual full-fledged business that you're going to take on and file taxes for. You can probably just do your side hustle and still have a couple things going on, instead of putting all of your eggs in one basket and being an entrepreneur, because it's like, once you start a business, you have to take care of the business, and everything else kind of falls to the wayside. So it's such a commitment that everyone can't do everything. It's just, you got to kind of choose your lane and stay in it.
Absolutely. So I think both Vivian and Kiola, you both mentioned something about the side hustle. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. There are probably several people who have side hustles, right? So they have their 9 to 5 and then they have a side hustle. But what should be in place? And I guess what are some resources, or what should there be so much money in the bank for you to make the decision? You know what? Let me move from the side hustle. Let me make this a full-time thing. What are some things that need to be in place for a person that has entrepreneurial efforts that's a side hustle, but they're thinking about moving into full-time? And Kiola, I'm gonna pick on you because I know you just said you stopped it. You're like, I'm full-time now. So what were some things that needed to be in place for you to let's take the 4 weeks?
So for me, I actually I've invested so much money into my company. In leaving my job, I got to a point where it was like I couldn't no longer, that balance was fall. It was kind of it was shifting. So I started getting a lot of traction and a lot of interest with the app, and then building out the team and knowing how much we all now need to invest in it. And because, once I brought on the co-founder, it was like, well, now we're running. That was that was one of our conversations. Like, when we start, we running. So it was like, well, I got to be able to run, and being at a job 9 to 5 wasn't going to allow me to run. So it was like, well, now I have to figure out how to juggle both, or I have to drop one. So it was like, all right, well, I'm just going to take all the money I have left. And once it was like, literally, I planned out so that I have a few months that I know my bills are going to be paid. And I was like, well, I'm going to run in those months because I'm going to make it happen. And I have little things where I can hustle to make money in that time. But for the most part, we're running. We are taking every opportunity that we have. We are working on getting the app up, and we're moving in these weeks. So I basically am taking a chance on myself and making things work for this time, because it's just not feasible to do both, being at work 9 to 5. And trust me, I had a lot of responsibility at my company. So it wasn't 9 to 5, come home. It was constant. It was a lot. I'm a director at the company that I just left. So I had so much responsibility that I couldn't really manage both. So it had to happen. It was time.
So, Vivian, what do you think? What advice did you give an entrepreneur who has a side hustle and they're like, oh, I'm ready to start full time? What do they need to have in place before they make that?
Well, first of all, if you're working a 9 to 5, you should be working on your side hustle from 5 to 9 or 5 to 2, or, all those extra hours you have, and you need to exhaust those hours. Because at the beginning, you need money to run the business, right? So, side hustle for as long as you can. But, in my personal experience, what I found was I started to see that the business, it was basically starting to replace my salary. I saw that there was a possibility that it could replace my salary. So, my advice, especially to people who are in their 20s, they don't have any children, they don't have they don't have any real responsibility, go for it. Go for it full throttle, because you've got the energy, you've got the energy. That's basically what it is. But, as you get older and you got kids and you got more responsibility, then you got to be a little bit more cautious. So if it pays your salary and it pays your bills and you're comfortable, and for a fact that, especially if you're doing stuff, half-ass at this point, right? So, sorry, I don't know. So once you actually start going full throttle, if you can do this side hustle at full speed, and it's going to double, triple, whatever, then yes, go for it. But you got to be, especially as you get older, you got to be a bit more careful, because we have a lot more responsibilities. But as a youngin, just go for it. But don't blow your, don't go into 6-figure debt trying to do this. But go for it. But yeah, if it can pay your salary and it can cover your bills, and you're willing to sacrifice for a little bit, then yeah. But sometimes a side hustle just needs to be a side hustle sometimes too, right? If you don't feel like, because the entrepreneur life isn't for everybody. And it's 28/7. Like this, 28/7. See, I don't even know. So that's but it's ongoing. It goes and it goes and it goes and it goes, and you're always going to be busy. You're gonna lose some friends, right? Because all of a sudden, all the time that you used to spend chit chatting and brunching and just doing whatever, it's gonna be eaten up by trying to grow this business. So you got to be ready to lose a lot in order to gain, in the long run. So yeah, that's my answer.
Kristian, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur who has a side hustle and they're like, oh, I think I'm ready to go full time? What's some advice?
I think it's good to work your side hustle for as long as you can while maintaining your foundational income, because when you take a step away from that 9 to 5 consistent check, that's going to change the dynamics of your financial situation, because now some of the money that you were using to like reinvest into your company, and you got to pay bills with it. So it's going to change a little bit, not a lot of bit, when you move into that space. So for somebody who's considering moving from a side hustle to full-time entrepreneurship, you got to think about, what's your base before you move on to that step. And then 2 main questions, how much are you willing to sacrifice, and how big are you willing to fail, are 2 things you have to consider. So how much are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice some of your social life, some of the, expenses and frivolous things that you might otherwise spend money on? Are you going to sacrifice that stuff? And then how big are you willing to fail? Something I've learned in my years of doing business And I think that the Black community has missed out a lot on this, is the benefit of using credit. Like, I feel like had I understood 6 years ago how to utilize credit, my business will probably be much further than where it is now, because you can do a lot using somebody else's money, right? And you take a risk when you use somebody else's money. It could fail. Are you willing to take that risk? How big are you willing to fail? Because the beautiful thing is, if you fail with somebody else's money, man, you can recover. It'll take some time, but you can recover. And a lot of the businesses that we see being successful in the marketplace, a lot of times they're using somebody else's money, whether it's the government, it's an investor, it's a bank loan, it's an unsecured loan from some type of, capital investor or angel investor. A lot of times people are using somebody else's money. So are you willing to take that risk and put it all out there? In which case, you got to do your leg work up front. Don't just leave your job for a side hustle where you haven't done a business plan. You don't know what the outlook is for the next 2 to 3 years. Like, you need to do all of that pre-work so that you know the risk that you're taking and you know how big your jump has to be. So those are some things that I would consider, especially for the African American community. We got to start taking credit more seriously.
I think that's great. So the thing that I've really gotten from this conversation is pace yourself. Like, don't just jump into stuff. Pace yourself. Do your homework. Whether it's not just your homework in your field, but like, what does it take to actually do this thing? And to look at the financial piece of it, and not just, oh, I'm passionate about this, but there's a back end. Like, I may be passionate about this, but I also gotta, like Kristian was saying, I gotta do the accounting part. Like, I have to do books, so being responsible with that. I want to be respectful of your time because I promised y'all a certain amount of time. But before we wrap up, I really want people to know if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to reach out to you. What are some ways that they can do that? Vivian, I'll start with you. Your website, email, social media, whatever that is for you.
Yeah, so my company is Kinky Curly Yaki. So that's KINKYCURLYYAKI. So it's the .com, the Twitter, the Instagram, all that. Me personally, I'm at It's Vivian Kaye. So ITSVIVIANKAYE. Every Wednesday I do a live Instagram live show. It's called Mind Your Business with Vivian Kaye. It is it's a show for entrepreneurs if you want to learn how to grow your business, start your business, scale your business. So it's all things entrepreneur-y. So that's every Wednesday live on my Instagram page. It's Vivian Kaye.
Awesome. Kristian, if people want to get in contact with you and solicit your business, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I'm a double entrepreneur in that I'm a church planter as well, and I know a lot of people have misconceptions about starting a church and think it's something drastically different. Like, you're starting a business. A church is a not-for-profit corporation. So to connect with me, what I would recommend is just connect with me either on Instagram or Facebook. My name is spelled with a K. So just take off the CH and put a K on. It's KRISTIAN. Last name is Smith 02, Kristian Smith 02 on Instagram. From there, you can go to my profile. It'll link you to P Squared. It'll link you to my ministry. Also, you can connect with me on Facebook every Thursday as a part of my ministerial passion. I do a Facebook Live called Christian Conversations, where we ask all the tough questions. No topic is off limit, and we really go after it. And then if you want to connect, if you're in Atlanta on April 16th and want to connect with us, every year in Atlanta, we do 2 trunk shows. And P Squared is hosting our spring trunk show in Atlanta, April 16th at 7 o'clock at Simon's Restaurant in Midtown. It's on Juniper Street. So I'd love for you to come check out some of the new fabrics that we're doing. We're also launching our Elite Image program, which is going to revolutionize the way people do their custom wardrobe. So we're excited to make that announcement. Come check us out, P Squared Custom Clothiers Spring Trunk Show, April 16th at Simon's restaurant on Juniper Street.
Awesome. Kiola, how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out or follow you on social media?
So if you want to learn more about Haber, Haber has a website. It's haberapp.com. That's HEYBORAPP.com. And Haber stands for Hey Neighbor. So it's all about community. And then you can also download the app in the App Store and on Google Play. And if you want to reach out to me directly, then I am on Instagram, and my name is Kiola George. So it's KIOLAGEORGE. And where I'm actually about to launch live, bi-monthly live, where I'll be talking to female entrepreneurs, and that's going to start happening in May. So look out for that, and that'll be, a way for us to, highlight a lot of, women doing their things in business.
Awesome. And if you guys want to learn more about me, Lit Sessions, what it's about, you can go to IamMarielleT.com, and that's all my social media as well. I am Marielle T. You can find out everything you need to know about me, upcoming episodes. Listen, I am super, super, super grateful to Vivian, Kristian, Kiola for taking time out of their schedules to have a conversation. I've wanted to do this probably for over a year. So I'm finally glad I was able to have a conversation with entrepreneurs, just to really dive deep. I hope that if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, if you've heard something that was encouraging to you, inspiring to you, LIT stands for Leading, Inspiring, and Transforming. So any conversations that we have on the show, I always want that to happen. And so I am super, super grateful to you all for taking time out of your schedules to have a conversation with me. You guys can keep the conversation going. So if you're watching this, fill it in on YouTube, go back and forth, good comments, Facebook, YouTube, even on the podcast. Share it with somebody and have a conversation. And so thank you all so much. I really am grateful to you. I appreciate you. Yeah, and so I guess I will see y'all on the next episode of the Sessions Live. Thanks.
All the time, I tell you God ain't good. I be lying, low key.